So started with the racism discussion group, guys, with this meetup actually. Okay, if the link is in the chat. If you were to click on that, you would see that we've been having events through this meetup group for a really long time. Even longer than the amount of time that we've been doing some of the events on here. Because this started out as a live and in-person meetup group. When I moved from New York to North Carolina, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and bring people in my own community together. I'm back in my hometown. I've been talking about this stuff with people in New York, New York City and, upstate New York and stuff like that. I spent a lot of time in the state of New York, and I was back in my home state, and I was like, I want to do the same thing in my home state, in my hometown. So I created this meetup to bring people together from my hometown so that we could communicate about this important issue. And there was plenty of interest. We now have almost 700 members of the racism discussion group, both in the local area and outside of it. And we had great attendance at these events. We've had people who have been coming for a long time, and we had great conversation. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from having not only the 100 live conversations here on Twitch, but also from getting those different groups of people together, people with all different experiences that they were willing to share, all different perspectives that they were willing to share. We shared literature on the subject of race. We shared stories on the subject of race, just to enrich our understanding of each other's racialized experiences. Because really, ultimately, hearing from people and how they were racialized, or that they felt like they weren't racialized, whatever the case may be, hearing those stories is what kind of advances my own work, right? Which is to hopefully bring these conversations into places where they don't often happen, get people talking about it, thinking about it, so that they can make an informed decision about how they want to deal with, the revelations that often come from investigating and interrogating the reality of a racial hierarchy being in place and being infused into so many systems of power around them. So yeah, that's the goal, guys. And it was working wonderfully. We had people from all walks of life getting together, all different political orientations, sexual orientations, gender identities, different, racialized groups, different ethnicities. And everyone came, and really I had absolutely zero people who reported that they had a bad time in person. I have had a few online, I have to admit, but we have had hundreds, so I like that track record, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of how it went. We were meeting in person at different bars and restaurants. We tried to do Black-owned restaurants, or coffee shops, whatever the case was. And we did that research. We would meet in these locations. People kind of came on board and left throughout the years, that I was creating space for these conversations. And that's kind of like how it went for a little while. It would ebb and flow. We would get new members coming in, speaking round robin on race in person at different Black-owned locations. And then I started doing virtual events for an obvious reason, right? There was like a huge pandemic. And so because of that, I ended up switching over to online because I was like, all right, I need to, figure out how to continue this. I wanted to continue the conversation. I built so much momentum, I poured my own money and time and energy into creating the group, and I didn't want it to just die because of those circumstances. So I went ahead and decided to create this Twitch channel. All right. And that's kind of where the Contraband came from. It came from my meetup. And instead of having, the full group conversations, I decided, let me just start by having one-to-one conversations with people. And that's how I started. I was like, let me just talk to people one-to-one on race, and I'll stream it, and we'll have 2-hour long conversations like that. And then I advanced to doing the group discussion again on Zoom. So we still have our group discussion, but we do it virtually once a month at the end of every month, So we've been doing that regularly now. And then I also did these events that were panel discussions, the intersection of race and different contexts. We did the intersection of race and education, law enforcement. We did criminal justice. We did healthcare. We did housing. We did tech. We did religion. We did politics. So we just went through the gambit of all of these different categories or contexts. And I would find people who worked within those contexts. Their professional job was within those contexts. And I would get 3 different people, typically of 3 different, walks of life or types within the context. And then we would have a panel discussion and people would come and they'd kind of give their own individual spiel about what they believe the intersection of race in that context was. And then the audience would have like an hour to ask questions. And those were some of the best events. First of all, they were like the most attended events by far. And the stuff that came out during those conversations is still to this day some of the most unique content that I've ever heard. But we didn't record that stuff. We don't record that stuff. We wanted to keep it confidential so that people felt, comfortable being honest and being open about their experiences and what they've learned from them. And boy, were they. And there's some shocking stuff that came out of those conversations. Of course, I'm not going to share that here out of respect for the participants, but, I'm definitely thinking about in the future of reviving that. But we'll get to the future of the Contraband Wagon in a little bit. Just want to continue giving you kind of a little bit of a timeline of events, right? So we did the in-person discussions. We moved on to online because of the pandemic, and that's when this Twitch channel was started. That's when kind of my YouTube channel started. And ultimately, it was very difficult for me to keep it up on my own, financially, my energy, spirit, the research I had to do, the communications I had to do in order to make it work. I was pouring a lot into it. And I'm not going to say I wasn't getting anything out because I was. These conversations are incredible and they help me grow. They help the other person grow. And they're just overall generally a good experience. And so, but it was draining, it was a lot of work, and I'm a teacher, so I'm not exactly raking it in here. So I had to find a way to kind of, get some help. And ultimately, I had to kind of stop the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel was stagnant for a while because of that. But we're back now. So you guys definitely check out our YouTube channel because luckily my moderator, Marigoth74, who has been posting the links in the chat for you guys, has been on top of it, helping me pump that YouTube content out there. Very appreciative for that. So thank you so much. And yeah, guys, check it out. Let me know what you think. And it's a free way, right, of accessing the content and hearing some really interesting conversations on race. I've had quite a number.